We're building tomorrow,
but we're human today,
where technology meets us
and ideas lead the way. From business to connection, from vision into sound,
we turn the boldest ideas
into something real and loud. The synthetic echo,
where human meets machine.
Create it, build it, grow it,
Push beyond what you have seen.
The synthetic echo, the future starts right here.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another dashing episode of Synthetic Echo. I appreciate you all being here today. I'm excited today because, as y'all know from my other conversations, I've been in real estate for quite a long time, and I'm actually meeting someone today who's been in it a lot longer than me. They started when they were like 2 in the industry, which is fantastic. And so we get to have this great conversation about how things adapt. And again, much like most of my episodes, we talk about everybody all over the place and in different lines of work. But what I love about coming back to real estate is the real estate model and the real estate business, whether you're an agent or you're a brokerage, it can adapt to any business, which is absolutely fantastic. So my guest today, a 35-year-old veteran in real estate and financial industries who has seen it all: market booms, dramatic busts, and wave after wave of technology changes. But unlike many industry stalwarts, he isn't fighting to preserve the old way of doing things. He's building technology he believes that will replace it. Sheldon Wolf is the founder of Intellitary AI, a platform he calls Un-Brokerage, designed to fundamentally change how customers connect with agents and lenders. His work sits right at the heart of show's central question: in our rush to automate and optimize, what happens to the human connection that defines the entire industry? Sheldon, welcome to the show. Is all that correct?
Thank you for having me. It's going to be fun. It's always fun doing things with fellow people in the industry who understand, who get what we're doing and get where the industry's going. So it's always fun. It's going to be a good show.
I always like it up in the air. Either we're going to agree or not agree, but either way, it's going to be a blast. So
Sure.
Knowing you the little bit I do, I think we're going to agree on most. So Let's talk about it. So I've been in the industry since 2010. I got lucky because I came in after the 2008 kind of turn. I got to miss that part. But you came into it in 1989, which you guys freaking about interest rates now. Tell us, I know a little bit about this. I wasn't in it, but I know a little bit about the market back then. What was it like? What was the real estate world like in 1989? So everybody knows.
It was definitely different than it is today. Interest rates and technology and brokerage theology. I mean, it was a different world altogether than what we have today. So interest rates were 14.75%, but that was them coming down from being in the 18, 19. It was that was the market just coming back saying, all right, we're kind of getting more affordable, if you want to call it that. But keep in mind, a house today that is $700,000 may have been $110,000 back then. So it's the same but different. But let's talk about challenges. One thing I've learned, and this is one thing that from being in the business over 3 decades, I've learned this, that when things are crappy, those are my best moments. So if you talk about the meltdown in 2008, I always say problems bring profit. It always creates unique opportunities. Those who are smart, those who can stand on their feet and navigate those tough times. And it's not just Sheldon who's got this theory. There's a lot of people who've developed ways to get through almost anything. And it all boils down to this: if you have a customer, then you've got gold. If you have a customer when times are good, it's gold. If you have a customer when times are bad, it's even more valuable. You know, it's like I always say, in a cyclone, even a turkey will fly, right?
I like it. Well, it's amazing what you're talking about, because right now there's a lot of FUD going on from 2022, 2023, 2024. And yeah, sure, it's hard. Like I've seen it in the real estate industry. But this is where, like, when you retain market share in these industries, when sales are low, you actually usually keep the market share. So if you were doing 20 deals before and you're doing 20 deals now, but maybe you're getting an extra 2-3% of that market share, as things bounce back, usually you keep that 2 to 3% of market share as long as you manage your business right. So to your point, these markets, the 1989 market, the 2008 market, our market now, this is where you build something massive. Something beautiful. And this is where your business has the ability to grow. It doesn't grow when everybody else is flourishing, right?
Yeah. Well, I've got a theory about today. Today we're living in the times. If you said, define this era is the Flintstones meets the Jetsons. So you have all these legacy brokerages still trying to do things the old way, still trying to figure out how to get all this new generation of people to buy, how to get this new generation of people to sell. And then you have this cloud brokerages who represent the Jetsons on the other side. And they're great, and they're acquisitioning a lot of these legacy brokerages, and they're recruiting with these low fees and all this other stuff. But I don't think they've really figured out how to monetize and moving in the future. Everything, I say it this way: those who try to solve today's problems, which is what I get, because I've got two hats. I've got my investor hat and I've got my founder hat. But my investor side is always like, okay, what's the problem? And there's a lot of people trying to solve today's problem, but that's a problem unto itself. Because if you're solving today's problem, that problem is solved usually by 5 p.m. By tomorrow at 12 noon, it's obsolete. And
especially today.
Yeah, and by 3 p.m. you have 1,000 people copying it. So
yes,
there's no value to today. I see invisible problems. My claim to fame is I can see things before they happen, long in advance. So one of the things that comes into my mind, and this is one of the things you say, well, how is it in bad markets you've managed to flourish? How is it? I see things like customer behavior. That's invisible to the naked eye. There's no big giant sign, but there's all these things that say customers act differently today than they did in 1989, than they did in 1999, and different than they've acted in all the 2000s. Because the fact is, every single customer, I'd question if they didn't have it, but if they have a smartphone, well, they've got AI right in their hands. And you and I love talking about AI because, I mean, whether we like it or hate it, it's here. It's here. Deal with it. And if you don't deal with it, you're going to get run over by it. So, the fact of the matter is you have an industry that is going to change whether it likes it or not. I built Intellitary because I see this coming. I'm not interested in solving today's problem. I'm interested in building what's going to be an ongoing problem and market share. If you want market share, well, you better be able to captivate the customer and have control of them. If you can create the pathway and monetize the customer pathway, that's what's going to be valuable. Having 20,000 agents, 30,000 agents, 50,000 agents, my factor is simple. If you're losing money on having one agent, your formula is wrong. If you're losing money having 10, 100, 1,000, I mean, it just, all you're doing is each time you're adding more, you're just causing more casualty, really. So it's customary.
Sorry, before we get on, I want to step back here because we're going to have a lot of people who are either not in real estate, but also a lot of people that are in real estate listening to this podcast. And so I think let's do a quick history, because one thing you're really touching on that I really want to deep dive into is how much this industry has changed. Because I was spoiled when I got in the industry. Now, I still use the fax machine, but all my MLS listings were online. But I still did use a fax machine, and we still had to hand sign everything. I remember getting in trouble for not having a pen with me one day. But I know for a fact in 1989, it was a little different. You guys apparently used to get these big books of listings. So like, without going deep diving into it, so people can kind of understand the way the business was to, let's just go till 2020. Let's just go right before AI, some of the key changes that we've had to stay up to date with in our industry, or that you've seen.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely correct. But let's go beyond the fact that we used to have these catalogs. We used to have a red book, which was for the south end of the city, a blue book for the north end of the city, and they'd all be black and white photos, which you could barely see, and it would contain the front of the house. That would be the extent of it. And you'd have all the info. But go beyond there. What I'm really saying, back then, if you were a customer, you relied on me to sit down at your kitchen table and discuss your needs, discuss your wants, show you pictures, and then we would decide what you're going to see. And the same thing would go if you were looking at list your house or sell your house. I would show you comparables based on this catalog. My whole life was this catalog, but the customer depended on me. I'm going to go on a limb here, and I know a lot of people don't like me saying it, but the fact of the matter is the customer does not need the agent like they needed the agent back in 1989. The customer at the touch of a button, never mind touching a button, speaking to his phone saying, hey, check on this neighborhood, tell me the crime rate, tell me the schools, tell me this, what's the average price, what's the average selling price, listing price, this, that. And in seconds, they get everything they need to know. You say, well, what about, do you think a customer would have the confidence to write their own transaction? Well, a purchase agreement, as you and I both know, and a listing, everything's just field mapping. It's just field mapping and data that goes into it. But let's talk about the future. Is if I don't need to sit down at their kitchen table today with catalogs, I didn't really need to do that when we went into the 2000s, because it was already starting with the MLSs online, where a customer can just pull up almost anything off of any IDX. And it's pretty seamless. The customer has a lot of information at their fingertips today. So back to what I've built here, it's not about having 25,000 agents or 15,000 agents. It's about who controls the customer. And that's why I built Intellitary, because I was great at running my conveyor belt system. And if I always said, and I've told you this before, but I always say, if I could clone myself, can you imagine what would happen if I could clone myself and there could be more of me? And we had a really good machine. And I said, well, I can, because we've got this great technology. And you say, well, what if I could clone myself times 1,000? And that's essentially what I've done with Intellitary, except in order for me to be in 1,000 places at one time, running 1,000 purchasers, running 1,000 listing appointments, I need brokerage assistance, because I believe that my AI tools, so to speak, I call it an ecosystem, but my goal is not to change the industry. My job is to make it easier for customers to pair up with the right brokerages and meet the right partners and follow our pathway, so to speak. And that's essentially what we've used it for.
So essentially what's nice, and just to kind of point this part out, what you are to a degree talking about too is, yes, the customer flow has changed, but the customer themselves hasn't really changed. They still need access to listings. The only difference is you were once the gatekeeper, now online is the gatekeeper. Yeah. They still need access to realtors, because like, I agree with you. First of all, what a realtor does today, even from 15 years ago, is vastly different. Yeah. We used to have to actually learn how to handwrite our legal clauses. You don't even need to do that today. They're just all in a book, right? Exactly. So where we are kind of in a bad way as a real estate industry leveraging that part out. But really, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm seeing like kind of the scene behind the scene. It's not that these customers need new things, it's they're finding new ways and easier ways to get those things done. And now what you're trying to do is adapt to that customer. Would that be accurate?
It's the industry, the way I see from an outside view, is it's very fragmented. You have one office doing it their way, another office doing it their way, another brokerage doing this, a lot of different things going on at once. And everybody's trying to bring in modern technology. But I find in one thing in particular, real estate, specifically with the legacy brokerages, they're very slow to adapt. They always like to go, well, our system, we just upgraded it 5 years ago. Oh, we just changed to this 8 years ago. But the problem is, in technology, never mind 8 years ago, never mind 5 years ago, it's almost to the point where 5 minutes ago, there's something new and better, faster, bigger, better, faster. So it's something that you always have to be on top of. You can't fight it, because you'll literally become extinct. My goal, one of the reasons I built Intellitary, I'm very passionate about the industry after spending over 3 decades in it. I'd like to preserve it, but put it in the right direction where customers don't just run amok. Because the question is, well, can, in theory, a customer literally just do everything themselves? Absolutely. They've always been able to sell their home by themselves. And the for sale by owners, it's not like it's obsolete. In fact, it's getting easier and easier. But I think there's a need to have a professional person, a real body on the ground, boots on the ground guy who can, weigh things on all that side. I think there's a need for that. Same thing with purchasing a home. I always say anybody who has themselves as a client has a fool for a client. So I think there's a need for professional services, especially in the industry. My whole life has been centered around real estate and financing and mortgage industry. Hence the connection to what I'm doing today. But I'm very, very passionate about preserving it to the point where it's still an essential need. regardless of where technology goes.
Coincidentally, by the way, I don't even know if you know this, I actually hold my mortgage license as well. And I can tell you one thing on a technological level, man, the mortgage industry is behind.
Oh, yeah.
Technologically wise, like real estate to me is still actually on the cutting edge of a lot of technology. And we have like databases and CRMs, but the mortgage industry is crazy behind. Okay. So you said this a few times. Let's go into the technology. And I'm curious because I have an idea what you're talking about, but I don't know what your plan is when you talk about cloning yourself a million times. We see a change happening in how we operate day-to-day real estate with technology. Tell me about that from your side. What do you mean by clone yourself and people taking care of things?
Good question. I've gone a step deeper. I'm always, whatever technology is out there,
love it.
I push it to the edge of what it's capable of doing and beyond. So with Intellitary, I said if I could clone myself, I would. And that was what I'd waited for years and years and years for the technology to be good enough. So it's not robotic. It's very organic. It's very natural flowing. When you go to Intellitary, you're going to meet Chloe AI, who is named after my cute little chihuahua. So she's audio video AI. So it's not just a typical chat where you're talking into a phone. You're actually talking. Chloe is no different than you and I having this conversation right now. You see me, you hear me, you can communicate with me. If you ask me a question, I'm going to answer the question. Chloe functions in the same exact way. You see her, she looks as real, she acts as real as I do right here, right now. But in fact, she actually knows more than I do, because when you go into the US, I don't know every single, there's so many different states and so many different municipalities, and they all have their own uniquities and so many different real estate boards, and it's not cut and dry. Well, Chloe knows it all. She knows absolutely everything. She can actually research any property on the MLS. She can go into all the history. She can do evaluations. Theoretically, she has the technology. She can actually sign, like if hypothetically speaking, you're with LPT, and that was who my brokerage was for us to partner with, she'd actually be able to literally fill out your listing agreement and literally send it to whichever broker, whichever agent was interested in having this listing, be a participating agent and whatnot. But she's capable of doing absolutely anything that, when you're programming these things, I always say, well, Sheldon, how would you do it? What would you do? Why can't it do it? And that's why I say it's field mapping. Let's face it, anything we do is always data and field mapping. So she can talk to you as a customer. You go to the website, she's going to start asking you questions. She says, hey, welcome to Intellitary. Are you looking to buy or are you looking to sell? Okay. And then she's going to ask the right questions that I would ask you with 30 plus years of experience. Ask the right questions. So when she's done, she knows exactly, but she's storing this information and she's going to pass this information along, because ultimately she's going to get you to fill out the form that pops up and say, hey, I noticed you're not registered. She's going to get you to register. And then your phone's going to ring and she's going to vanish off your screen and say, hey, it's me, Chloe. I was just talking to you online and I just wanted to get a little bit more information. But she does that on purpose. She does it on purpose because I know that as good as AI tech is today and good as my audio video AI technology is, that still doesn't give Chloe legs yet. She still needs somebody to show the house or to do the listing and do that today. So I explain what she is right now. I say, right now, Intellitary is what you get when you put Zillow, Uber, and Match.com into a blender. So she's going to qualify the customer, screen the customer, qualify them, then she's going to match them, and then she's going to dispatch them. But now that she has you on the phone so I've taken you from online to offline, now you're on the phone, she can now patch your call directly through to one of our participating agents or brokerages. So, you want to list your home?
Nice.
Okay, hey, you know what? Let me check and see if I've got a buddy, Joe, who's in the area, and she's going to patch you right through to Joe, who loves taking our free listings that just land in his lap. And that's essentially what she does. She takes people online, offline. What does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means. So
I'm loving this. This is like, sorry to interrupt, but this is like the future that people keep asking me about, and I love that you're doing this. So keep going.
Well, it's fun. It's fun because I brought all the future into today's technology, and that's where it's fun. So you take a company, and I don't know their true stats. There's all different renditions of
Sure.
what Zillow stats are, what realtor.com stats are, what this company's stats are. All these companies, and what they do is they aggregate leads and they sell the leads to realtors. So what I do know in general, and I can't speak to any specific company, nor would I want to, it's not my job to do so.
Sure.
But in general, when you look at a real estate website, in order to get one form where a customer has filled out one form, it takes about 100 to 120 people till someone fills out a form. So it's roughly, if I have to put a number, it's about 1 to 3% of people, right, web traffic that goes in will fill out a form. Joe Smith, here's my phone number, here's my email. Whether it's accurate or not, that's a different story. Could be someone just monkeying around. That happens a lot.
Sure.
And realtors buy these leads, pay good money for them, and find out that the number's not even in service. But different story.
Yeah.
So the difference between what Chloe does on Intellitary, she jumps off the screen, captivates you, starts asking questions, and that brings us about a 60 to 70%. So when you go from a 1 to 3% to a 60 to 70% captivation rate, she's getting your data and turning you into a customer. But she goes deeper. She's more into, oh, do you have a house? Oh, you want to buy a house? Okay, well, tell me, are you currently renting or do you own? Oh, you own. Great. Well, tell me about this house. And then she moves it along to the questions that I would ask. So are you pre-approved already? Have you been pre-qualified yet? Then she's also sending this info off to mortgage agents who are also participating with us, and so on and so on. But she also knows that if you're buying a house, somewhere down the road, you're going to need home insurance. Somewhere down the road, when you find that right magical house, you're probably going to need an inspection. You're probably going to need title services. And somewhere down the road, you might even need movers. So where a lot of companies that, they sell leads, for lack of better words, they sell leads and you buy leads for whatever you pay, whether it be $60 or $150, and they may be bad. And of course, every realtor has stats on how successful they are with them. Some are and some aren't. Chloe's not just selling you a lead. Chloe is screening them. So if the customer says something, oh, well, I'm not really serious right now, I'm just monkeying around, she's not going to bother turning it into something that it's not, which is what you and I as people in the industry would say, oh, it's just a tire kick. They're just bouncing off things. They're not serious, ready to do something. But if you do have a home that needs to be sold, she's on you. She is on you, and she's booking someone in to take this listing, get her done. If you are a customer sitting with all the important questions that someone should be asking, she asks, and then she gets you off to one of our partners. And that is what her job is. And she can do that 20,000 times per hour. She can talk to literally 20,000 people an hour, simultaneously having completely different conversations.
Okay, because I've fed a lot of my business on internet leads, so I do know some of these numbers, and I want to explain to people how this works out. So I would run Facebook leads. I happen to have a very good turnaround time. But usually if you're closing at 2%, if you're closing at 3%, you're a superstar. That means 3 out of every 100 actually do a transaction with you. You're doing very well. I would say those are the top end people. Most people are at about 0.5 to 1%, right? The next issue that you run into with internet leads is a scalability issue. Is you're going to have your proper follow-up versus time. Because a proper follow-up with an internet lead isn't one call. Hey, I didn't get a hold of Sheldon. Boom, I never call him again. And now he just gets a few emails. A proper follow-up is I'm calling once a day for 10 days, every single day until I get a hold of him. I'm sending him a text and I'm sending him an email, right? So if you go without that, if I'm doing that with every single internet lead to actually convert at a proper high amount, I'm lucky if I can handle 150. Like that would be high to handle 150, right? Just to filter through that. You're talking about basically set it and that whole process gets done to 20,000 times an hour.
Yeah. She was
when I say by one person, I don't mean by one AI. I mean, like it's your AI doing it, but you are one sales rep in theory that's doing all that.
Absolutely.
I want that to sink into the listeners, man, because this is the scalability that I keep talking about. And I love that you're doing it in action. Okay. I'll let you talk now more about Chloe and more about what we're going to say.
Yeah. I mean, I designed it doing thousands of transactions. That part's easy. I figured out how to do that long time before AI, long time even before, internet.
Well, you'd be loaded just telling people how to do that, let alone have someone do it for them.
Exactly. I went from literally being a 19, 20-year-old kid getting into the industry in 1989 to a guy who was making millions of dollars by the time I was in my mid-20s, to building a conveyor belt system that allowed me to do 200 to 300 transactions a year. And it was a funnel that dropped customers onto my conveyor belt, put them in front of my desk, and literally we spent almost 100% of my time writing transactions. That was the machine that I had. And then I turned it into something I can do thousands. And then I said, well, geez, if I can clone myself.
I want to back that up for a minute, because this is something that people don't realize about real estate is there is actual caps in real estate. Everybody tries to tell you this, it's no cap, but there's only so many transactions you can write in a day. Like, sure, every realtor wants to dream of it, but you still have caps. So you had a cap, I'm guessing, at about 200 to 300 leads solo, right? And now you needed
there's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah. So now you needed leverage to bring that to thousands, right? So any business owner, I want you to hear this part, because there are artificial or non-artificial caps that we don't talk about, and this is one of them. Okay, so carry on. Now you're scaling it to thousands in your system.
Yeah. So you have to look at scalability and say, there's only so many. If I'm going to do something by myself, now I had assistants, I had staff,
sure,
but that said, it was always a matter of, okay, how do I clone myself? Because no one's ever as good as you. If you're good, you're always thinking, why is it I hire this guy, and why is it he's losing this? So the conveyor belt.
Or why isn't he doing it himself?
Well, that's just the other side of it too, right?
Yeah.
So like I said, I built Intellitary for year one to be able to crank out 50,000 transactions, but that's where I say, okay, instead of me having a whole bunch of assistants, I'll let the brokerages figure out how to do the recruiting. That's why we call ourselves an Un-Brokerage. We're not interested in recruiting agents. We're not interested in acquisitioning another brokerage and another brokerage and another brokerage just to get up a body count. Their vision of the future is if you are a brokerage and you can buy some of these legacy brokerages and you get up to 25,000, 30,000, 40,000 agents equal transactions. But in real life, they do equal transactions, but the truth of it is there's more unsuccessful agents. There's this thing called churn in the industry where an agent gets in, they got into the business because their friend Joe went into the business and Joe's making good money. Therefore, I just need to get my license and I'll make good money too. But it doesn't really work that way. There's more people churning. They get in. In fact, the real estate industry probably has a higher turnover than McDonald's. People get in for the wrong reason. They get in, and the real reason they should get in is it's a business. It is a real business, but you have to treat it like a business. You have to treat it like a real business. And I can tell you, with Intellitary, we've talked to thousands of realtors. And the first question we say is, how much are you spending on advertising? How much are you spending on these? Oh, I'm not really. Well, if you're not investing in yourself, how can you expect a customer to invest in you? And hence the reason I built Intellitary. Once again, I said if I could clone myself and literally clone myself times 100 or times 1,000, it's a beast, because one thing for sure, it certainly knows how to handle customers properly. It certainly knows how to distribute and dispatch. I mean, that's literally what it does. It matches and says, hey, so-and-so at ABC Realty in this city is best qualified to handle it. And it puts them up against our internal matrix and dispatches it to them no differently than Uber would dispatch someone looking for a ride. And literally, except the difference is it's going to our subscribed agents. And what are we doing? Well, you know what we're really doing? We're taking all of these agents that are not being monetized by the brokerage. So the brokerage is losing money having a lot of these people who do 0 transactions a year, or they do 1 transaction in a year. And they harbor a lot of liability. Here we're taking a lot of their people and we're turning it into monetization, because what happens when you do a deal? Well, you pay deal fees, you pay, and all of a sudden you've got money and you've got longevity, because if you're in the business for a year and then you drop out, that's not helping the brokerage. It's not helping you. If you can help someone make money, and that in turn helps the brokerage make money.
Well, I can even help you. Like, I know the numbers. I used to operate or run a brokerage. I didn't own it. I was the CEO of it. And I can even help you with the numbers. First of all, last year, 94% of agents on the Toronto board of 70 some odd thousand agents, 77,000 agents, sold 4 or less homes a year.
Yeah.
And it was about 80% of those did not sell a single home. right?
Yep, absolutely.
So we're already seeing that point of scarcity go through, number one. Number two, now I'm going to be very careful with this because I was the kind of guy that met a guy who drove a BMW Golf 5 days a week and made $100,000 a year in real estate. That's why I got into it, because I had no better. Having said that, what you're talking about, you are absolutely correct. The reason why you should go into real estate is because it's one of the lowest cost, highest profit industries you can get into. So if you had $150,000 to invest, don't go buy a restaurant, don't go buy a franchise, go start a real estate business, right?
Yeah,
operate it and run it like a business. And this is where most people don't. They're trying to replace their job, right? And that's the mindset shift we have to get out of to become successful. So I just wanted to kind of verify some of the things you were talking about with numbers there, that what I love about what you're talking about, just go back to the users, is treat this like a business, operate it like a business. And when you talk about investing into yourself, absolutely do that. Like, if I will not, this is one that drives me nuts. I'm going to say it. I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off, but I don't care. I do not work with people with Gmail addresses. I will not. If your company is landscapingco@gmail.com, I will not hire you. If you cannot invest $10 into a professional name, I have no idea what the heck you're investing into me as a client. And I think that is ridiculous. That's a small example of self-investment. And you're giving me this look like, I can't believe we're having to go this low. But like, the reality is that is one of the biggest problems I see among realtors. But last 15 minutes, last 10 minutes, I want you to talk. I know we've been talking a lot about your product, but let's get into some specifics. Okay, who did you make it for? Did you make it for the brokerage? Did you make it for the agent? Did you make it for both? Obviously, the mortgage broker, the mortgage company. Who is calling you over this?
I build, number one, I'm a preservationist. I see things coming a long time before they come. I see where AI is going. In fact, never mind. I know exactly where it's going. I know exactly what it's capable of. And it's okay if you're the guy programming it, and it's okay if you're the one controlling it. But I'm a preservationist. I love the industry. I don't want to see a day, and maybe it runs me over too, I don't know. But if I can fight for the industry and make it so brokerages are still around, because then realtors and agents, they're still around, and mortgage brokers, on and on, like the whole industry as a whole. Right. I designed it because I know one thing. There's a reason that there's a 90-10 split when it comes to realtors. You said the average is about 4 a year. There's a lot of companies out there that it's actually an average of 3 deals per realtor per year.
I think our largest one's 2.5 in Canada.
Yeah, and that means exactly what you say. There's a lot of realtors who are doing 0 transactions a year. There's some that do 1 or 2, and it's all. And then you get the hot shots who do as many as 100 deals a year or whatnot. And then you get the teams. You get all that. But what I'm saying is, the way the consumer is behaving, and it's all because of technology, there's going to be probably a lot fewer bodies, but the ones that are survivors will be able to survive because they've figured out how to captivate the customer and keep the customer, control the customer, monetize the customer. And that's why I say, I actually, as an investor, built Intellitary. I didn't build it as a founder. I built it as an investor, and I built it backwards. I started off, number one, what's the problem? Well, my problem is not today's problem. My problem is an ongoing problem that's going to go into the future that involves the customer and their behavior. And I said, how do we control that path of the consumer? So I built it backwards and designed it. How do we monetize it so that not only can our revenue flow back to the brokerages, because in some cases, and you would know this, that a lot of the fees for these cloud brokerages have dropped to very, very, I mean, in some transactions, they're making literally hundreds of dollars, not thousands, hundreds in deal fees. And that's not survivable, in the sense that in many cases with our brokerage partners, they're probably, well, not probably, they will make more money from Intellitary transactions than they will from their own realtors doing the transactions for Intellitary. They're still going to get their deal fee from their realtor, but on top of the deal fee, they're going to get success fees from Intellitary. So hypothetically speaking, there's one broker. I'm going to throw numbers up, but I won't throw names out. But they charge their realtor $275 per transaction, and something really low like $100 monthly fee. So deal comes in, they pay $275, and then they have caps and all this other stuff. But if they're getting $275 from the realtor and another $1,000 from Intellitary, I think there's a very compelling argument that says, if I show up with 50,000 transactions and I want to hand it off to this brokerage or that brokerage, I would take my phone call. And as far as the investors go, this thing is built for speed. You look at the value. I don't know if most people understand the value of what 50,000 transactions looks like, but from our perspective, we're talking a machine that can blow into the hundreds of millions of dollars. And they like to look at it from the how many times. Oh, this is way more than 10 times investment. So it's an absolute beast. And the good thing is, as an investor and a founder, I've invested the first the first seed round into it myself personally. Right. That's essentially where we're at today. That's how much I believe.
Okay, so if you don't want to say this, just say no. We'll talk about it off camera. But then, how does someone engage if a brokerage? Actually, I'll just say it bluntly. How do you get paid then? Because you obviously have a cool model. If the brokerage is making money and the agent's making money, there has to be a way that you guys make money. Now, we don't have to go to all the ins and outs, but I'm just super curious.
Yeah.
How does that business model make sense? Because I want to back up 1 second. When you talk about those low fee models, by the way, of brokerages, I'm with you. A lot of times I've been approached by brokerages where I start running the numbers in my head. And I know what it costs per agent. Yeah. And I'm like, this just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
Like there's somebody has to carry the float, or it's just not going to be around in 5 years. Right.
Well, I was the guy that a brokerage or a developer would call when things were wrong, when things were bad, right, when things weren't monetizing, when things weren't cash flowing, when they were.
By the way, sorry to interrupt. You don't have to tell me an exact amount. I'm just kind of curious. Like, does a consumer pay you a monthly, or would it be like a referral fee based program? Like, because people are going to be asking me about this. Right.
The consumer doesn't pay us anything. We're captivating the customer, we're cultivating them, and then we're harvesting, handing them off to the brokerage. Where we get our money is obviously, would we give our customers off to any realtor? No, they're all subscribed agents. They're our partner agents. We're going to make sure that if you're a realtor and you're not making a lot of money, you're not doing well, you are one of those guys that does either 0, 3 deals a year, whatever it is. I'm going to make sure you've got somebody in your car nonstop doing the right things. I'm going to make sure that you are sitting at people's tables, signing listing agreements, and or otherwise with Chloe's technology. In theory, if you're one of our partners, she could probably even do the listing agreement for you and just ends up on your desk. We're progressive that way, where our goal is to make sure that's happening. We make our money from the agents. So for example, I've been in real estate a long time, and the difference between a realtor today, and let's talk about a realtor 5 years ago. The realtor today makes more money. The brokerages may be making less because of these new systems and whatnot, but the realtor is actually making more money. Yeah, they're not making more money because they've gotten better, smarter. All of a sudden, they know how to use tools and AI.
Actually, the opposite. Yeah.
They're making more money because the house that was $300,000 5-6 years ago is now $600,000. What does that mean? If you're in the US and you're making a 5 or 6% commission, well, it means your commission's probably doubled or came close to doubling, and you haven't done anything else. In fact, now maybe some of these agents are even lazier now because, well, I'm making more money today than I used to make, so why should I work harder? Well, that's a different kind of mentality altogether. But the fact of the matter is, the only one who's not making more money is the agent. So if you were, hypothetically speaking, and here's an argument, because I would look at it and say, well, I've been that guy. I've been that agent for many years. So if I'm, hypothetically speaking, going to make a $20,000 commission selling whatever, do I really care that I have to pay $1,000 referral fee, a success fee?
No.
If I literally planted the guy in your car. So where we make our money is, 1, off the recurring revenues from the subscription fees, but 2, when you are successful with one of our customers, I'm going to hand that money right to your brokerage. Why not? You win because you got a customer. You just made a big chunk of money and literally didn't have to advertise, didn't have to buy a bunch of crappy leads. You got a pre-screened customer, in most cases, who already pre-approved, literally landed in your car or landed at the door of whatever house you're trying to sell, and literally, there's no mucking around. This customer is ready to go. And the best part is, you have to ask yourself, hypothetically speaking, you're at ABC Realty. You have to look and say, well, wait a second. If Intellitary is going to rack up 50,000 transactions and just hand them to this brokerage, their partner brokerage, that means there's 50,000 transactions that some other brokerages are not getting. So I look at it and say, we're taking market share and we're going to hand them to our partners. I'd say we're a pretty good team member to have. Let's put it that way. Because there's zero brokerages out there. If you're a brokerage and you've got 14,000 agents and you're doing 50,000 transactions, and someone says, well, keep the same amount of brokerages and we'll just dump an extra 50,000. Well, now you're a brokerage with 100,000 transactions. What does that mean? Instead of losing money, it means you're making money.
Mm-hmm. All right, Sheldon, I could go on talking about this all day because this is fascinating. And what I'm going to do is, not everybody else knows this part. I usually say this beforehand, but I'm definitely going to play my little outro song. But I want you to stick around so I can talk to you behind the scenes about a few ideas that came up. Largely because I think any realtor, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like individuals will reach out to you, brokerage owners will reach out to you. You're kind of supplying it all. It doesn't, like, do you have a production level before I carry on? If someone's doing 5 deals a year, are they like, nah, that's too much for me? Do you want the 5 deal? Do you want the 50 deal? Do you want the 10 deal? Do you want the brokerage? What is your ideal set of clients?
Yeah, our interest is in the brokerage. It's easier to run a system, especially when we're dealing with success fees and feeding into there. There's things like we don't want to have to deal with, all the other issues. That's the very reason we don't want to be a brokerage. We want to be able to have one partner brokerage. Depends on coverage, because of course we're going for a national. So it may be a situation to cover all the states we want to be in. But we want to be narrow. Narrow runs nice and efficient. And as long as I know that all of our customers get great top edge service, that's how we thrive, because we're the root of the customer. So if they have a terrible experience, it's always going to blow up back on Intellitary, and everyone's go, yeah, I use them. They set me up with someone, and blah, blah, blah. The guy didn't return my phone calls, or the guy missed his appointments. We don't want that. So we're going to be selective. And literally from the brokerage perspective, there's zero brokerages that don't want an extra 50,000 transactions. So given that they're A, getting our transaction, B, they're getting the revenue, they're getting our success fee plus the realtor's normal deal fees, it's a pretty good argument why we're being a little fussy. On the investor side of it, which is the other side I haven't spoken about, but it's this thing, like I said, it's designed to be a beast. I have no doubt in my mind once it's in full tilt, what it's going to evaluate at and where it's going to go from there. A lot of people, when they're looking for third-party investors, which we're looking at right now, and there's a few that I'm considering, but for the most part, I'm equally as fussy when it comes to outside investors. And the reason is a lot of people don't care. They just take the first person who writes a big fancy check.
Sure.
The problem with that is you're gaining a backseat driver. So, one of the things I really liked about this show is you've got that real estate background. You get it. You understand it. But can you imagine having a partner that really has no idea what prop tech is and doesn't understand the fintech, doesn't understand the B2B on this thing? And you've got to kind of educate to the point where they're someone who understands what I'm doing. And there's a couple of venture capital companies there. They completely get it. If you do, you'll understand the magnitude of them. We're talking billions of dollars. You look at the valuation on something like Zillow, and there's a reason that certain companies climb up into the multiple billions, not to put exact numbers to things, and then there's reasons why things are just, what I call AI space junk, which is a different conversation on a different day, about that big wall that's coming our way. This is above and beyond. This has already hopped over the wall that's going to come its way. So, and it's got legs. So
awesome. All right. Before I let you go, how, because I'm literally going to have a CEO of the fastest growing company in America, real estate company in America, on in 2 weeks. How do people like him get in touch with you? What's the best way, other than bugging me for your contact info?
Yeah, exactly. The best way to contact me is by email. It's Sheldon, SHELDON @intellitary.com. Intellitary is spelled INTELLITARY.com. You can also hunt me down on LinkedIn. Don't be afraid to approach me. Don't be afraid to ask me even the dumbest questions, because that's what I'm here for. Reach out for sure.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to make sure we have your LinkedIn and your website and everything in the description, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I really hope, I really hope anybody listening to this, realtor or not, first of all, on the educational side that I want to make sure y'all have a takeaway on is we as realtors have been part of a very expanding and different industry, and technology is going to make the world of a difference. And AI is just going to do that on steroids. Everything I've seen from this point forward, what we see as business in 5 years is going to be run dramatically differently. Make sure you get yourself around visionaries around that. And Sheldon, I talk to a lot of people like this, and I love where you're going with this. While you've been talking, I've been looking up Chloe on your website and checking her out. Does not look like a Chihuahua. Let me tell you all that. But no, look at like this is where the future's headed. And I guarantee you, when you're with somebody like Sheldon, this is not where it ends. You are not seeing his peak performance right now. You are seeing it today, the peak today. In 1 year, you don't have to worry about staying ahead of the curve because I can see where it's going already. He's going to be there. So definitely, if you need this in your business, reach out to him. Until next week, everybody. Sheldon, as I said, stick around. I'm going to have like 30 seconds of song again, and I'm going to pull you back in, but everybody else doesn't get to hear that conversation. Maybe we'll have to have a background one day. Thanks for coming again.
Thanks so much.
All right.
We're building tomorrow, but we're human today. Where technology meets us and ideas lead the way.
Business and connection, growth in every sound. The future keeps on calling. Can you hear it coming now?
Where human meets machine. Create it, build it, grow it, and shape what comes between.
The future starts.